All right. So, hello, Lauren, and welcome to the Bookish Spell Podcast. I'm
Hi.
really excited to have you on here. You are our first official author, so congratulations.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So we are going to talk a little bit about your book, The Spoiler, and I actually didn't know you wrote other books as well. Uh,
Yes, the spoiler is my first published, though. Yeah.
oh, really? Really? Nice. That's amazing. Um, so I do want to ask, can you just share like what initially inspired The Spoiler?
Well, at first, my friend and I had been having a conversation about movie spoilers and book spoilers, and she really likes to know what's going to happen. She wants people to tell her, and I feel exactly the opposite.
Oh,
So,
really?
um, I was going to write what was going to be a comedy. It was going to be a rom-com,
Mm.
and and it just took a turn, just a natural turn while I was writing, and became a lot more of a contemporary romance that was more emotional and less funny. So still some funny stuff in there, some banter, but yeah, things kind of changed as I went along, and that was the inspiration.
Mm. I love it. So I didn't quite finish the book completely,
Mhm.
but so far most of it, what I read, I am enjoying it, and I will be putting up my review soon. But I love the characters. I do. I love your female lead character. I love her personality, her persona. I am really enjoying it. Um, like I want to say, like the first couple of pages, it was like one of those books for me. It was like, okay, I'm gonna like this. I enjoyed it. So I do want to talk about your characters and how you went on developing them because they are a little bit more on the spectrum of like real and relatable characters.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. I try to do my best with creating characters that feel real in a story that feels mostly real, even if it's, somewhat far-fetched. But um, I I think for Rose, I put a lot of myself into her character.
Mhm.
I think her reactions and how she carries herself. It's kind of how I was when I was younger. I'm
Mm.
37 now, so it's
Yeah.
like not exactly, you get to a different point in your life. But yeah, when I was younger, I think that I was a lot like her. And I do a lot of that, putting myself into my characters. Um, Tristan just came to me.
Mm.
He is his own person entirely. No real true inspiration there. Just as his voice came to me, I knew how he was going to be as a person, and that was kind of natural for me. So, and then yeah, my other characters, side characters like her brother and her
Mhm.
parents, I draw from family experiences.
Nice.
So yeah, a little bit of this person, a little bit of that person, and yeah, that all kind of came together in a nice cast, I think.
Really enjoyed the character development a lot in the book. Um, so your book does aim a little bit more towards enemies to lovers,
Hmm.
which, as a avid book lover myself, that's most of every girl's favorite type of trope in the books. So,
Yeah, oh, definitely. Yeah, I definitely like to create stories that have a setup that gives you good banter and good
mhm,
I don't know, that good tension, I think,
mhm,
of
mhm,
enemies to lovers. I think it's you can play off of that, especially when you put romance into it. You can really like
mhm,
play up the sexual tension between the characters. So yeah, it worked out, I think.
mhm. It was at the early part of the book in the scene where she's like watching her. She got herself a couple of new DVDs, and she was like listening out to make sure she don't hear Tristan.
Hmm.
Uh, dashed for the kitchen, got her popcorn, and I'm not gonna lie, like I like really LOL. Like I had a real laugh. She like shuts the door and he's there.
Exactly.
That was well played. It was really good.
Yeah, I had her say the F word, and
Yeah.
it's funny because I think it was one of my uncles was
Mm.
reading it. It's like, oh, you get right into the F word there, and I'm like, yeah, well, she's 21, like I think it's natural at that point that you're surprised by something and you yell the F word.
Like I really had a real little laugh. Like it was good. I do enjoy when books make me laugh. It is definitely really fun. So I do want to ask you, well, I guess we kind of talked about that a little bit earlier, but that was one of my questions is how, because like the spoiler has a lot of like Easter eggs or movie references. So my question was for you is, are you a big movie fan?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I did a lot of what she does.
Mm.
When I was growing up, my dad used to take me to the video store and
Oh,
gosh, almost every weekend, I'd say. And I would
mhm.
get a few videos, and I had one of those little, those little TVs where there's like a VCR in the
Oh,
like
yeah.
TV. Yeah, I
Mhm.
had one of those like little baby TVs. Sorry, my computer's tipping over. And I used to watch, uh, yeah, like period dramas and comedies. I got myself really heavily into period dramas, but my sister is also, she is such an Anglophile. So like she loves all the British period drama stuff. So she really,
Mhm.
she's older than me. So she definitely like was a good influence on my love of those
Mhm.
dramas. But then my dad too. I mentioned a lot of movies that were family movies that we loved, like Last of the Mohicans, and
Mhm.
oh my gosh, so many actually in there that we watched as a family.
I
So,
love that.
and my parents are big movie people. Like, it's
Mm.
funny because my husband and I will be like, "Did you see this? Like, whatever movie?" And they'll be like, "Oh yeah, we've already seen that," and it came out yesterday. Like they
Oh, yeah.
so many movies, it's ridiculous. Like they probably watch like 5 movies a week, I
Oh
would
my
say.
goodness.
Yeah,
Well, that's cute.
big part of life.
Yes. Do you have any plans to make a sequel or a spin-off for the spoiler?
I'd like to. I don't think it will be immediate because I have other
Mhm.
things that I'm working on now,
Okay.
but I think I would like to. I've had other people ask me about her brother Rob's story because
Oh.
yeah, as you get further along in the book, you see some of what Rob is doing, and a girl comes into his life named Nicole, and you get like a nice little scene with them, and I think that I would like to do his story, and I think setting it in the same general world so that you do get like some Rose and Tristan and stuff, I think would be cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. So I do hope to be able to read that. I do.
I hope I get to write that for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Are there any upcoming projects you want to talk about that you're working on?
Well, I am currently on submission with my agent, so I have
Mhm.
a vampire romance that is a love triangle,
Oh,
and that is being sent out to publishers right now. So fingers crossed. Let's hope somebody
fingers
will buy
crossed.
it.
Yes, fingers crossed. That would be a nice read.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, my friend. What is the most surprising part of your journey as an author?
Oh gosh. Um, Surprising in a good way is people reaching out to me,
Mm.
people I don't know wanting to talk to me about my book, wanting to, I mean, I get tagged in things and it's just so cool. Like the people who are all over, not just the country, but like in other countries who are like tagging
Mhm.
me in things like, oh, your book, I felt like your book's in the library, or your book, whatever. And like, just, it's, it's surprising because you just don't think that that's going to happen to you until it does. You don't think a bunch of people all over the world are going to love what you've written. It's a very personal process, and it's a creation that, you know when you do it, you finish writing a book, you have this thing and it's like a baby, and you're like, oh, I
Mhm.
have to take care of this baby, I don't want anybody to hurt this baby, and then the baby goes out in the world and there's people who love the baby as much as you, and that's so cool.
Amazing. I love it. Mm. All right. So we do have a little segment I like to call Get to Know the Author. So I'm
Mhm.
going to ask you 6 questions, maybe a couple more, depends what comes to mind. But my first question to you is, what inspired you to become an author?
I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I went to college and I took classes in history and philosophy, and I was kind of all over the place. It wasn't until I had this like really weird experience with an ex-boyfriend. I sat down and I kind of started writing almost like a journal. Like started writing out like my feelings about what had happened, and um, somehow I started a story. And it wasn't the spoiler. It was it's a completely different unpublished story, but I wrote a whole book. This is back in like 07, 08. So I was like a junior in college, I guess. And yeah, I had no plans for it at all. But as soon as I started writing and realized I was writing this story, and it was very personal and it was a lot about myself, but then I went into this whole fantasy, and I realized how much I loved it. And that's what I wanted to be a writer.
Amazing. Do you have any like writing rituals or routines to help you get into the creative flow?
For me, you know how some actors are method actors and they really get into their characters' heads and become actors. When I'm writing, I write first person perspective always. And
Yes.
I wouldn't say it's like a ritual or routine to get into it, but once I'm in it, I am like almost method acting. I am the character. I am Rose, or I'm whoever I'm writing at the time. And yeah, it's hard to break out of it once you're in it. I'm writing my story. I think, caffeine helps. That's part of my, I guess, ritual, if there is a ritual. Lots of caffeine, lots of music. I listen to ambient music when I'm writing.
Yeah.
Really like the lowest volume that you can listen to, but like just instrumental, because if I hear lyrics, it's distracting when I'm writing. But usually have these noise canceling headphones on, and yeah, I don't know. I don't have like a very specific routine though. I'm more like, when I'm inspired to write is when I write. And once I'm inspired, it's hard to uninspire me. Like once I start the ball rolling, I got to keep going. So, yeah.
That's nice. Do you have a favorite book or author that kind of influenced you in writing?
Oh gosh. Well, I would say, I read a lot of fantasy, but in terms of romance, I had never read any romance until like 2020. So I only just started reading romance, and I picked up Lexi Ryan's books. And Lexi Ryan, now she does some fantasy too, actually, but her romances are they're just quintessential, perfect, beautiful characters, beautiful stories. And I'd say that was a big inspiration for me to write a romance, which I had never considered writing romance at all. And now I love the idea of going kind of back and forth between fantasy and romance, and writing something some of that.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you, if you're more of a fantasy writer.
Yeah, I like, it's definitely my first love, I'd say, is reading fantasy, but there's always romance in it anyways, no matter what, I've always wanted to have that subplot. So, but yeah, now I'm kind of like, I like both so much. I want to be able to write in both genres.
It's amazing. I love it. I feel like, maybe being able to write romance can be fun, because it's getting you're being able to write exactly what you would like to happen compared to what we've been through in our lifetime.
Sure. Definitely.
So I see that why a lot of authors do tend to stick with romance.
Yeah.
Nice. If you weren't a writer, what would you be doing instead?
Oh gosh. I have a lot of different, areas of interest, and there are a couple I would have done. I worked in theater and performing arts for a long time, and I really loved that. So maybe I'd be doing performing arts work again. I don't know, maybe that, or I really love like home design stuff. So I do a lot of like drafting house like floor plans, like
Oh,
literal like what
really?
out of a house. Yeah. So I don't know, probably not like an architect, but like in a more aesthetic, like designerly way. Like
Yeah.
I don't know what that job is, if it exists, but that's what I would be doing probably.
Interior design. Yeah. Be a little more interior design. That's
Yeah.
fun.
Mhm.
All right. So I do have another question. How do you unwind after a long day of writing?
Well, my husband and I like to watch movies and TV. We usually have like a TV series going of some sort, and big popcorn fans, so we do that, have some popcorn, watch some TV, chill out. Um, Sometimes go out at night with friends. Uh, yeah, I don't know. What do you think? Like, I do a lot of TV watching at night. That is definitely like once the kids are in bed, I'm gonna watch some TV.
I mean, it's kind of cute because you're very much like your character Rose.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. Just tucking in for my movie. Yep.
I love it.
hmm
What's one thing your readers would be surprised to learn about you?
Geez. Let's see. I love performing arts. I love musicals, and one of my favorite musicals is Les Miserables, and I have a big tattoo on my hip. It's like, I
Whoa.
don't even know how, like, I don't know, like 6 inches, 8 inches or something. And it is Cosette from Les Miserables on my hip. So yeah, big fan, big
Nice.
fan of the opera fan. I was gonna get a fan of the opera tattoo at some point. Maybe I won't. I don't know. I feel like I'm getting too old.
Mm.
Maybe one day. I don't know.
One day. I think you're
Yeah,
never too old for a tattoo.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Do you have a favorite genre to read that's different from what you write?
Let's see. Not really. No. I think that between fantasy and romance, that's where I'm pretty solidly positioned. But um, I do when I was younger, I liked to read some like women's fiction, like Sophie Kinsella. But I'll be honest, I'm just not a huge reader. I'm a very slow reader, and it takes me a long time. So while everybody in the book world is, reading a book every 4 or 5 days or something, I'm a very, very slow reader. I have very bad ADD. In addition
Oh,
to
yeah.
OCD, like I have to go back and reread things over and over again. If I don't absorb every word, I don't feel like I'm satisfied with what I've read. Like I don't DNF books. I literally have to read the entire book. So
Mhm,
it's a slow journey for me. So I do read. I just don't read as much as like the bookish world does
yeah.
probably. But yeah, fantasy and romance are definitely my favorite genres.
Yes. Well, I do feel like when taking your time to read a book, you definitely get a lot more out of it and you're able to
Yeah.
like fully immerse yourself. I
Yeah.
know when I have my slow reading, because sometimes, don't get me wrong, sometimes I have a fast reading month and sometimes I take 1 month to read my entire book.
Yeah.
The months where I am slower reading, I enjoy that book like a million times more than when I'm speed through it because you're immersing yourself into that world. If it's a fantasy world or in that story or that character, and it doesn't bring it to life. So
Yeah,
I think it's
exactly.
a superpower you have, be able to take the time to really enjoy the book. So
Yeah, for sure.
to do that. All right. So, another question I have for you is how do you stay motivated during challenging writing days?
It's hard. There are times when I have found myself kind of at an impasse where I need to decide to do something, or I need to, finish something, or I feel like there's a deadline. Sometimes there's a deadline. I have to finish edits. I have to do whatever. And yeah, it can be hard to motivate yourself to get back into the mindset of the character. And that's how, like I said, that's how I write.
Mhm.
I have to feel like I'm there. I have to feel like I am walking in his or her shoes. And one of the things that I like to do and that my therapist encourages me to do
Mhm.
is to get out of the house and go right at some of my local favorite coffee houses. So
Really?
yeah, there's like this place, there's this restaurant, and it's like a restaurant and a bakery and a coffee house all in one. And I go there. There's a couple different places in town. And once I'm out of the house, I feel like I'm less distracted. I'm more, because it's easy when you're at your house to like put on TV or whatever. But if I'm at a coffee house, I'm not sitting there on my iPad watching TV because I think that would be kind of weird. But, I'm like, I'm there, I'm having my food, I'm having my coffee, and then turning on my music and getting back into it. And it kind of pushes me. So,
Wow, that's interesting to hear that you're less distracted when you're out in public than
yeah.
at home.
Yeah, I'd say, well, sometimes depends on where you go. I used to go to this one place and their music was really loud. And even with noise canceling headphones, I was like, I can't
Yeah.
hear myself think, so don't go there anymore. But outside
Right,
of those
right.
things, yeah, I think that it's just so much easier to like give yourself a free pass to just do whatever in your own house.
I could see that like working. I totally understand that when there's something you have to do, and then like I pick up this laundry, I gotta throw out the trash. Oh, let me start dinner.
Yes,
And you're
exactly.
so able to prioritize that when you're
Mhm.
on. So that's really good advice from your therapist.
Yeah,
You like
yeah,
it.
sure. Yeah.
So what's some or have you ever received any like advice from another author that you kind of hold near and dear to you?
I don't know about specific advice, but I have connected with a couple of authors recently and had some really good conversations just that are like motivating and going forward and getting through um, the negative days because this is a very difficult industry. Things
Yeah.
are not easy. Nothing's just straightforward. You're not just like, I'm going to write a book and then I'm going to sell a book. There's tons of rejection. It is an uphill battle. You try to get an agent, you try to get a publishing deal. You might come to a point where you have a deal with somebody and it falls through. Like there are times where things don't go the way that you think they're going to go. And there's an author, Alexis Hall, and
Mhm.
he's so positive even
Mhm.
in the face of challenges. And so I had been like chatting with him a little bit about that, and he had gone through some issues recently where he had to sever a contract with like he had to like part ways with the publishing house.
Well, okay.
Yeah. And so he's like no
Wow.
longer doing what he was doing with this one publishing house. And I don't know if he's other books from in other publishing houses that he's like working on and getting out there. But yeah, knowing that you're going to face challenges and just being able to work through them and know that there's going to be something better on the other side. And yeah, that's been inspiring for sure. Motivating to just push forward, keep going.
Mhm. Would you say like being a published author, a successful author, is more difficult than becoming a actress or a screenwriter?
I don't know. I think that I know people who act. I know people who actually I know people who screenwrite too. I don't know if it's harder necessarily, but I
I feel
think
like
that
equally.
getting to the top might be
Yeah.
uh, more challenging. There aren't that many big publishing houses. Things have consolidated so much. So like, you have Penguin Random House. Penguin Random House used to be Penguin and Random House. They have merged. There are all
Oh.
these mergers, and you see how over time, when there used to be way more publishing houses that were like it's kind of like right now, everything's either small press or giant, and there's not a lot of in between.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. So like, if you want to be publishing books through a large publisher, there's 5 big publishers. It's just different than it used to be. So it's definitely a challenge. I don't know. The one thing I'll say about acting right now is that there's so many streaming services and there's so many people.
That's,
So it's not
yeah.
just movie. Like, if somebody wants to be in movies, they don't have to try to get like into some, Universal Studios picture or something. Like they can go do Netflix. They
Yeah.
can go like Amazon, Hulu. Like there's so many different people making original content now, and there's so much of it. I think that people have a lot more opportunity to do that professionally in the writing world if you don't traditionally publish. And that's cool. That's great. I know that's a giant challenge in and of itself, but like at least there is that back there. You can really do that in acting. Say you can't just be like, oh well, I'm just going to do it myself. I'm just going to make a movie tomorrow, So it's not, I don't know. I think it's challenges in both ways, I'd say.
If you could have dinner with any fictional character, who would it be and why? I'm actually really curious what your answer would be.
That's really interesting. If it were one of my characters, I would say, so the vampire book that I am hoping to get published, there's a character named Devereaux, and he's just a really, really fun, kind of wild guy. Like, I think we'd have a really fun dinner, and then we'd like go out dancing and have fun.
So we have another little section I like to call random chat. So we're going to be talking about some random things, but essentially just to get to know you better.
Okay.
So outside of writing, do you have any hobbies? Like when you're not writing, what do you love to do for fun or relaxation?
So right now, what I'm doing is painting. Wait, back about publishing stuff. I down in space, I paint, and so I'm painting. I do love doing art, sketching and painting, and all kinds of art. Really, my mom's an artist, and she was an art teacher too. So I grew up learning a whole lot about creating art and about art history. So that's a passion of mine. Love traveling, do a lot of traveling. My husband works from home and I'm at home writing books. So we take advantage of free time. We do a lot of traveling. Our kids get out of school early on Fridays. They have half days. So sometimes we do like a long weekend somewhere, and that's fun. So yeah, we're definitely like a traveling family. I'd say we go on, I don't know, probably like 4 or 5 trips a year.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
That's fun. Where have you went to recently?
In August, we went to London and Paris. So
nice.
that was our first overseas vacation as a family.
Wow.
It was my husband's first time overseas, and that was it's just phenomenal. I mean, just the best trip, and the kids loved it, and we did so many fun things and ate such good food, and it was great. So
nice.
You never know how it's going to be with little kids, but it went really well. So it was good.
How old are your children?
I have a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old.
Oh, you got small babies.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, they handled the trip well.
They did, yeah. They fly really well anyways. We started flying on planes with them when they were little, so they've gotten used to flying. And it was a real adventure. They were just so into the magic of all of it,
Yeah. That was one of my questions for you. If you could travel to any destination for inspiration, where would you go?
Yeah, it was funny because when we were in Paris, I got to see a lot of places that I've written about in currently unpublished stories. So, I mean, it's like a dream come true, seeing things that you wrote about and did a lot of research on, but that you had never seen before, So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's a place that I could check off my bucket list for sure. But I think my next place that I really want to go to is Scotland.
That'll be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Have you been to any other, or this was your first, you said, going to London was your first as a family?
As a family, yeah, that was our first. When I was in high school, I went to Italy
Nice.
um, with like a class, like we did like a class trip thing.
Well, Lizzie McGuire.
Yeah, it was because so in my school you could take Italian as a foreign language in my school,
Oh,
and
yeah.
so
Wow.
like the Italian language class went to Italy as a trip, which was like crazy, really cool. Um, and then I went to when I was in my 20s, I went to Hungary and Greece.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so those are all the country, well, I've been to Mexico and Canada also,
Right.
but I know they count, but like they almost don't because they're just like right here. But they do count. I love Canada. Like we grew up, so I grew up in the Metro Detroit area, and in Detroit, when you go, so if you live in like the suburbs surrounding Detroit, like
Mm.
pretty much everybody when they turn 19, they go over to Canada to drink because that's the legal drinking age in Canada is 19. So
Hey, I didn't
yeah,
know that actually.
yeah. So it's like a little rite of passage. You turn 19 and like literally from my house I could drive 20 minutes and there's a tunnel from Detroit to Windsor and you go like a tunnel under the river and you just go through and you're in Canada and you go over and drink. So that was I spent a lot of time in Canada.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's not probably like that anymore now to just easily go through, right?
I don't know how the borders if they've changed too much. I haven't been to Canada in a while, but yeah, because that would have been well, it was post 9/11,
Mhm.
um but yeah, borders have gotten tighter for sure.
Yeah, because I think you didn't always need a passport to go to Canada. Didn't
Oh,
they? Just,
no, no, no. No, and when you're in Michigan, um and like I don't know how many states have this, but like there's like a special driver's license that you can get
oh,
that and do you have that like an enhanced license so you can just go to Mexico or Canada.
but you're so close to the border. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're so close to the border, it's like a special license where they like it's kind of like a passport, but I think that now you do need a passport to go to Canada. You used to be able to
Yeah.
take a birth certificate. Like,
Oh, man.
yeah,
Wow.
so things are
Yeah,
different.
I know not long ago where they made that now mandatory to have a passport.
Yeah,
It was
that's
that long
different.
of a change. Yeah, I know it's different. I remember it was like, okay, now I'm old enough and I live close by Canada. I'm gonna go. They
Yeah,
like I passport to go, so I need to get my
right.
passport.
Yeah, that would hinder the 19-year-olds from going over to drink for
Yeah.
sure. Not everybody just has a passport, so yeah, and that's a process in and of itself, like getting a passport. So not as easy.
So we talked that you love to write fantasy.
Mhm.
Is there a favorite like book in through childhood that made you fall in love with fantasy?
Oh gosh. Well, I loved reading Harry Potter when I was a kid. I don't know about when I was like little. I
Mm-hmm.
read I feel like Harry Potter was like my first introduction into like real like true like a fantasy world, you know?
A lot
Uh
of years, yeah.
yeah, like I feel like that's like everybody's first thing. I don't know.
Yes.
I and from there I went on to like the Mortal Instruments and like
Mm,
of course Twilight and stuff, but there were like a lot of series in between that I picked. Vampire Academy is a really good one. There were a ton of like giant books, like where it's like 8 books, like a bunch of book series like that. And I was probably more like in middle school, I'd say,
mhm,
not like a little kid. I was
mhm.
reading when I was a little kid. My favorite books were like I used to read the Wayside School books. I used to read I had this like weird obsession with Calvin and Hobbes, like the comic book strip.
Oh,
They're like made into books, like anthology books, and
wow.
I used to read these like comic book things.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, when you're little and you read like The Babysitter's Club and like all the, yeah, those books when I was little, but not so much fantasy, I'd say, until the phenomenon of Harry Potter came out, and then the world changed because of that, and that just,
Because I mean,
yeah, it's a big eye-opening thing for kids, I think, magic and stuff.
yeah, so I feel like maybe before Harry Potter, I can't really think of anything that had that big of a world building that was designed for kids.
It was, yeah, for kids, because you can think about like
Lord of the Rings. Yeah.
Lord of the Rings and everything, and you like, well, but that's like that's older. That's an adult audience. Maybe the Chronicles of Narnia.
Oh yeah.
That's very kid like.
Yes.
And Percy Jackson, I never read. That I feel like was a little bit later for like for my age group. It was like
Right.
later. So
when it became a thing, you were like past that.
So I was wanting, at that point, I was like, okay, give me vampires. I was like, give me, it was too late. I was like, I want the like, yeah.
As I'm werewolves.
Give me like the darkness and like a little bit more sexiness. And even though, all those books, all the YA books, they were like, there was no sex in them, but it was all implied, all of the implied stuff. I mean, you fill in the blanks yourself anyways, but yeah, at that point, that's what I wanted.
Like now today, do you still enjoy reading YA?
I haven't in a long time, but I've been thinking about doing rereads of stuff, like especially that series I was mentioning, Vampire Academy. It's just such a good, just a well done YA series. And I actually, maybe it's even NA. It might be like new adult, because I actually think there's sex in it. I can't remember. It's a little darker. It's like Twilight, but it's like darker in good ways. More violent too, but like I loved that when I first read it. I was like, this is yeah. Give it to me dark. I like it, like,
Yes.
a little twisted.
That makes me think of this question. Is the book that you're currently working on now, is it going to be a little more darker?
It is. It is a lot darker. Yeah, it's not the light-hearted romance that is the spoiler. It's definitely dark issues and death, and a lot of like deceit, and the love triangle dynamic is dark in and of itself. So my main character is he's a man. He's a vampire. So I wrote this through the eyes of a male, which is different from me to do that, because I had always written female characters, So my main character is this vampire, and he falls in love with this human woman, and it's like right around the same time that this guy, this vampire, this dude comes back into his life, and this was like a former lover of his. So like he has to figure out between the two of them. And it gets messy because he's also being hunted by this coven.
Oh, girl.
So he killed the leader of this coven, and so they're like, he's been in hiding for all these years, and so they're after him still, and so like shit gets real. And like at first you're like, oh, it's a romance, and then you're like, oh wait, like there's stuff happening that's super serious. So yeah.
Well, this sounds like a pretty interesting book. I really hope that it gets published soon.
I hope so. I'm really into it. I'm really excited about it, and it's like set up to be more than one book. So
yeah.
So hopefully, cross our fingers. Let's hope it gets published.
Yes, I hope so. So I know you said, because the spoiler is your first published.
Yes.
So all of your other books you've written, do you have intentions of publishing them or anything?
Yes, I don't. There's nothing that I've written that I am like done with. There's nothing that I've put aside that I'm like, I'm never going to do this again. The first thing I ever wrote was a time travel fantasy, and kind of like Outlander. This is before, I know Outlander was written a long time ago, but like this was before the Outlander TV show.
Mhm.
Um, but it's also like romantic and everything, but it's a big epic, like, something that's set up to be like 6 books. Like it's like a giant epic time travel adventure type of series. So
Nice.
I hope to publish that. I have other romances that I've written like the first few chapters of, and then like gotten distracted and done something else.
Yeah.
But that happens sometimes. But yeah, I have other romances in the works, and
Nice.
I feel good about it. I'm definitely gonna keep pushing forward. So, and now I have an agent, which I didn't have for a long time, and now I have somebody, who's in my corner, and it
Good,
feels good
good to
to
hear.
have somebody who's like ready to sell your stuff and ready to be on your team, and so that
Mhm.
helps. It's another motivator.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, that's nice. All right, Lauren, where can we buy the spoiler?
The spoiler is available everywhere books are sold. You can buy it online on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Books a Million, Kobo. Gosh, pretty much everywhere you can buy a book online. Walmart sells it.
Nice.
Yeah,
That feels like a big achievement to have your books in all like major stores.
yeah, yeah, for
Nice.
sure.
Well, congratulations on that. Because I realized it just not that long ago your book was released.
Yeah, it was just in June. Yeah, mid-June. Yep.
Oh, congratulations on that. Definitely a
Thank
big
you.
accomplishment.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Lauren. Well, I know I took up a lot of your time. Thanks for chatting with me. And I know it's kind of late.
This has been an awesome podcast, and thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, nice. I really enjoyed hearing you talk and like getting to know you.
Yeah.
It's definitely interesting, like getting to know a little bit more about the author while you're reading their book. It's actually kind of fun. I do enjoy it.
Well, thank you
Yeah.
so much. I hope you enjoy the rest of the book.
Yes, I will. I'm almost done with it. And